This is episode 13 of The Inside Line on Wisp Sports Radio. The Inside Line is the only podcast focused on women's alpine ski racing, coming to you year-round from the World Cup circuit and beyond. The Inside Line is a co-production of Ski Racing Media and Wisp Sports. I'm Gabbi Hall, and at Wisp Sports, we believe women in sport deserve equal coverage. All right, guys, this week, the World Cup season is winding down in Åre, Sweden. NCAA championships have come and gone. People are retiring. And I think if you're anything like me, you're pretty ready for spring, even as I look at the snow falling out of my window in Boston. You know, I love skiing. Do not get me wrong. It's amazing, but it's very easy to get burned out on this sport when you're covering it day in and day out. So together, I hope we enjoy and celebrate these last bits of ski season. Hopefully you guys are getting some spring skiing in. But I'm really excited about this episode because it includes an interview with the wonderful Alice McKennis of the U.S. ski team, who is in Sweden right now. She has been through so much in her career and has had a really amazing season. And I think you're going to enjoy our chat later in the show. We take a really deep dive into what's been going on with her in the last year. But first, of course, as always, we need to start off with our news section, Fresh Tracks. So shall we dive in, everyone? We'll start off with NCAAs. I don't have a ton for you on this topic. I know we don't talk about collegiate racing all that often on the show, but I do need to give a shout out to Amelia Smart from the University of Denver. She swept the women's alpine competitions, slalom and giant slalom. She's a former Canadian national team member, and with her help, the University of Denver won the national title for the 24th time. And it was just a truly impressive performance. I mean, as anyone knows, it's very tough to win back-to-back races. Amelia herself said after the race that she had a lot of confidence in slalom, but was surprised a little bit to win the GS. So not even she necessarily expected to dominate in that way. And you also really never know when you bring the West and East Coast divisions together like that, who's going to come out on top. You know, anything can happen. So shout out to Amelia Smart, super dominant performance. I think we're going to see a lot from her, not only on the NorAm circuit and the college circuit, but hopefully see her a little bit on the World Cup circuit, potentially, if she wins the NorAm slalom title this season. And speaking of the World Cup, as NorAm titles are wrapping up, so are World Cup titles. And a few of them are still in contention at World Cup finals in Åre. But, you know, even before these races have kicked off, a few globes have already been secured, of course, by none other than Mikaela Shiffrin. And she has secured her second consecutive overall globe and her fifth slalom globe, which is crazy to think about when you think about the fact that she just turned 23. Happy birthday, Mikaela. Shout out. She just turned 23 on March 13th. But when she secured the overall globe with a third place finish in the giant slalom at Ofterschwang recently, you know, she said it felt like doing it a second time justified last year's overall globe. And I want to share an audio clip with you guys. Here's what she said in the finish area of that race about winning for a second time.
For sure, this meant a lot to me. After last year, when I won the overall, actually some people were saying like it's sort of fake because the other girls weren't there and there was nobody to challenge her. And so to have the overall this year locked in already before we even go to finals, it feels like confirmation for me. And also just it's been an incredible season. Every race has been really something special. So yeah, it's an incredible moment right now.
You know, I don't think anyone can doubt her dominance now. I mean, particularly because she's had 42 World Cup wins before the age of 23. That makes her the most successful skier under the age of 23. You know, she's obviously past that time, but I think she's going to do incredible things in her career. She's a long career ahead of her, and we're going to see some exciting things. But second overall globe, my guess is it's not the last, considering how dominant she's gotten in speed. But we can talk a little bit more when she has the globe in hand. They hand those out at World Cup finals. She doesn't physically have the globe yet. But we do have people in contention for other globes. You know, Wendy Holdner has actually already secured the Alpine Combined Globe. She did that a couple weeks ago in Crans, Montana. And then Victoria Ravensburg will likely win the GS Globe. She's got nearly a 100-point lead over Worley. So it would take a very dramatic situation for her to lose. It's still mathematically possible that someone else would take the globe, but it feels like with Ravensburg's consistency and performances this season, she will likely walk away with that discipline globe. Then we also have, of course, Super G Globe and the Downhill Globes. Both are up for grabs and being hotly contested. Those will be decided most likely, pending any weather difficulties before this episode airs. But keep your eyes on skiracing.com for the stories about those races and globes. We will be covering it all from start to finish, and surely a lot of exciting action coming our way from the World Cup circuit. And then finally, in fresh tracks, we have to talk about a couple big retirements. So Slovakia's Veronika Velez-Zuzulova and Austria's Michaela Kirchgasser took their retirements in Ofterschwang, Germany. If you're not familiar, a lot of World Cup athletes take these celebratory retirement runs at their final race. Julia Mancuso did back in Cortina recently this year, and they dress in costumes. In this case, Veronika Velez-Zuzulova had sort of like a traditional lederhosen type outfit with flower crown on her helmet. Michaela wore like a pink tutu skirt, and they ski down slowly and they hug their coaches along the way. And it's one last way to wave goodbye to the World Cup. And usually, there's teammates in the finish area, and they have bottles of champagne, either to drink or to spray the retiree. They usually end up soaked in it. And it was no different for Veronika and Michaela. Each of them have been on the World Cup for about 2 decades, so really long careers and a lot of success, including World Cup wins, World Championship medals. So definitely presences on the World Cup tour that will be sorely missed. Just incredible women. So of course we have to mention them on the show, wave them goodbye, and hopefully we'll see them, in the finish area and doing incredible things in the ski industry moving forward. And that's sort of the bulk of what we have in news. We're at this climax of the season where everything's going to be closing out. So, of course, our next episode, we'll be able to bring you the definitive Globe winners, wrap up the season, do a little analysis, and then, of course, talk about any final championship racing that's happening around the world. But now we're going to transition into the mixed zone. This is our section, of course, where we interview a major player on the World Cup circuit or even NCAA, NorAm, Europa Cup circuits. But it's where we get to feature an athlete. And I'm really excited about who we're featuring this week because I haven't talked to an American in a while. This week's guest is Alice McKennis, who has been on the World Cup for nearly 10 years. She's a longtime member of the U.S. ski team. And this week, after a 5-year drought, Alice actually returned to the World Cup podium. She took 3rd place in the final downhill of the season in Åre, Sweden. And I was able to chat with Alice the night before that race. I'm really excited for you guys to listen. So without further ado, here is our interview. Well, thank you, Alice, so much for being on the show. How are things going in Åre?
Things are going well, and thanks for having me on the show today. We finally had our first training run, which turned out to be a section training run. We were only able to run the lower portion of the course. And tomorrow we're hoping to complete the training run by running the upper section and then tie the whole thing together with a race following that. So we have some interesting skiing ahead of us.
It seemed like you had a pretty solid training run. I mean, I know it's only a section, but you were still the fastest down the course. I mean, how are you feeling about the track right now?
Yeah, I'm feeling good about it. It's my first time up here, and a lot of the other racers haven't been on this track as well. So I think everyone's just trying to kind of figure it out. But the lower section we ran today was pretty fun. It was some big, wide open turns with some interesting terrain. So it kind of keeps you on your toes a little bit with the terrain, but it seems to flow really well, which is nice.
Sweet. So these are obviously the last World Cup races of the season. I mean, has it been hard at all to refocus back on the World Cup after the Olympics?
Yeah, it was we had kind of an awkward amount of time after the Olympics. We weren't able to go home at all. So we hung out in Korea for a few more days, which was great to see the closing ceremonies. And then we were in Europe for a few days. So it's been kind of this awkward waiting game to get back into it. But just even coming back to Europe, feeling more at home in Europe than I did in Korea, was able to refocus in on the races and feeling ready to go again.
Nice. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about your Olympic performance, because you were 5th in the downhill, which was an absolutely stellar run. I mean, as far as I can tell, it's your best result in a World Champs World Cup Olympic game since you won in St. Anton, back in 2013. So, I mean, in your mind, what clicked in Pyeongchang for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled with the result I had in Pyeongchang. I mean, to be top 5 at the Olympics was incredible. And, leading into the Olympics, I was starting to feel more confident in myself and trusting myself in my skiing and the process I had going on, and, really staying focused on a couple aspects of, my training and what was working for me. I was gaining a lot of confidence out of that. And I think, ultimately on race day, I really put all my trust into myself, and I executed my plan, which, I've been close to executing my plan this season, but most of the races I have hesitated at certain points, and at the Olympics I didn't hesitate at all at any section of the course. So that was a really amazing feeling to finally bring it all together on such a big day.
Definitely. And, I was reading the blog post you just posted, and you kind of talked about how disappointed you were in your test event performance last season. And you sort of hinted the fact that you were thinking that your ski career might actually be over, and you seem to have made a complete 180. I mean, how did you flip the switch from almost like planning for retirement to having one of your best seasons ever?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I mean, the reality at the end of last season is I was nowhere near to making criteria to qualify for the U.S. ski team. And, where I was with my ranking, my skiing, I was just like, there's no way they're going to bring me back. I was fully prepared that I would kind of get the axe, so to speak, and have to move on. And I was prepared for that. And then the U.S. ski team gave me another chance. And with that chance, I took full advantage of that opportunity and full ownership of my program and what I felt I needed to improve. And I was able to turn things around, and I'm really proud of that and excited the progress I made in just about a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible. And then, in the same blog post, I just thought it was really interesting to read. So, everyone listening should go read it. I'll put the link below the podcast. But you mentioned this idea of being kind of like ultra intentional and very accountable for your training and your preparations in the past season. And what caught my eye most was this story about your start and improving your start. And I'm hoping that you can share that story with us, because it seems like working on your start made a huge difference in your skiing and maybe even your confidence.
Yeah, so the start thing, my whole career, I've been fairly slow out of the start, and thinking about it and looking at it, I came to this realization. I'm like, this is like free money. The start, if you can get ahead on the start or even just be even, then you don't have to make up time. So I made this decision, like, I'm going to get good at starts. I cannot lose any more time up out of the start. Like, it's not going to be a thing for me. And I really focused in on the starts this summer and had a lot of help from my physical therapist, who's always at the start. And he and I analyzed the starts every day, and we would watch other athletes training and sort of figured out what was my best technique. And then I started doing well throughout the season, being pretty consistently fast in the starts, top 7 or 8, which is, fairly stacked together. And it was really cool and really satisfying. I actually won the start split in the Olympic downhill, and that was like a little mini victory for me. And my therapist, Micah, who's up there, and was like, we had this team effort together. So that was really cool to turn things around and do so well on a part that I really committed to.
That's awesome. So when you say you were analyzing starts, I mean, what types of things were you looking at from a technique perspective, and what worked for you to make your start that much faster?
Yeah, well, we trained with the Norwegian men a little bit this summer in Chile, and the Norwegian men are typically some of the fastest starters on the men's World Cup tour. So they have a very high cadence with how quickly they're moving their arms and how quickly they're pushing. And that's the sort of the technique I picked up on, was to have a very fast cadence with my arms and with my pole pushes. And it started to work for me. I used to just try to push only with my feet, not with my arms, but I figured out a way to push with using my legs and my arms to get the most power out of each, stride or push or pull plan, however you want to look at it.
Definitely. All right. So pro tip here on the inside line, everyone, start analyzing the Norwegian starts. It will make you faster. So, so you had this amazing performance at the Olympics as an individual. And you may already know this, but, this race was the first time that Team USA had actually had 3 women in the top 10 of an Olympic downhill with you, Lindsay, and Breezy. And so it was an incredible performance, and the speed team, women's speed team, has really been that way most of the season. You guys are just killing it. And I'm curious if in your mind, what has been the most important factor to creating such a successful team?
I really think it's this coaching staff we have right now. We made some changes with our staff last year, and Chip White came back in with our group, who some of us had worked with before, and we have Karen Harjo, who's a phenomenal coach, and Ira Cole, who's been with us for several years, and those 3 are kind of our core coaches, and then some of the other coaches come in and out, and they really worked hard to support us well, not only in training, but mentally and emotionally, and just always keeping it positive and keeping really happy, fun vibes, because the sport should be fun. And I think previously in the last couple of years, we weren't really having that joyful skiing experience all the time. And these coaches have made it fun again for all of us. And when you're having fun, it's a lot easier to do your best.
It's kind of interesting to hear how all these different teams work together, because I think we often hear about, the attacking Vikings are very much a unit, and then the Italians with the downhill Lions and the whole thing. So it's cool to see the American girls, really crushing it as a unit. Going back to your individual performance, I mean, beyond the Olympics, this has been, as far as I can tell, like your second best season on the World Cup in terms of, total World Cup points coming into the end of the season. And so, looking back at the season as a whole, I mean, what do you think of your skiing and what are your goals moving forward?
Yeah, I'm really happy with where my skiing's at right now, and the progress I've made, especially the last 2 years, did not go well for me, and I struggled a lot. And I'm really psyched with the consistency I've had. I haven't had any outstanding great results in downhill. But the other thing I've done is I've consistently scored in Super G, and I've never been a Super G skier, so that's been really satisfying to score in 5 out of 7 Super G races, and that's been a huge step for me, and I'm really proud of that. And moving forward, looking ahead to goals, I would definitely like to establish myself in the, to be more of a consistent podium threat and be within the top group of downhill girls and break into the top 15 in Super G next season. But, see how things go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it seems to me like you had a good, pretty healthy season this season, and your career has been sprinkled with various injuries. I mean, I think a lot of speed skiers. I've heard from downhillers before that the injuries are just sort of part of the territory, and when you pick speed skiing as your career. And I'm curious, while it may be just part of the job, has your experience with injury and recovery changed the way you ski at all or approach speed skiing?
Yeah, certainly. I think when I was younger, before I was ever injured, I was a lot more reckless with my skiing and didn't really think about what the consequences would be. I would just go full send, full blackout mode every time, and I do not that way anymore. I'm not comfortable to be that reckless or to ski like that at all. And I think that's, once you give that up, you have to become a better skier to make up for it. You have to become better technically to be able to make up for maybe that little bit of just being completely reckless and not caring. Because I definitely care now if I get hurt or not, because I've been hurt and it's pretty brutal.
And so, I mean, kind of along those lines, do you feel like at this point in your career, nearly 10 years on the World Cup, that you found some balance between, we'll call it the line between genius and insanity, or reckless and skiing technically well? Do you feel like you found that balance?
Yeah, certainly. And especially this year, I've really gotten comfortable with just skiing how I ski. And, a lot of the times I felt like going into races, I had to push harder or do something more or try harder or do this or that and like have to send it harder. And I was never really comfortable doing that, especially after I'd been injured. And this season I've gotten comfortable with just knowing in the start, like what I do is good enough. How I ski is good enough, and that's all I need to do, that I don't need to push harder or risk anything more just because it's a race.
And this is a little off track, but it just came to mind. I mean, of all the injuries that you've had, what has been the most challenging for you to come back from?
Definitely my right knee injury from 2013 when I shattered my tibial plateau into like 40 pieces. I mean, I tried to ski within 8 months and tried to make the 2014 Olympics, but was nowhere ready to compete at a high level. And since probably that injury took me over 2 years to really, really recover from. And, it took me almost 4 years to regain my full strength again, just because of the deficiencies I lost by not being able to strength train for so long, and just a lot of other tissue damage that I sustained in the injury just took so long to recover from. So that one definitely was the big boy.
Well, I'm glad it seems like you found your groove and you're back to basically full health. Now that you're coming out of this season healthy and kind of have a full spring, summer prep period ahead of you, what are you most looking forward to this off season?
Definitely looking forward to a little time off, time to myself. Hopefully do a little bit of skiing for fun this spring if there's any snow left in Colorado by the time I get there. Lots of mountain biking and camping and just enjoying the outdoors and a little bit different situation than skiing. So anything outdoors is what I love to do in the summer.
Nice. Are you headed to Sun Valley for U.S. Nationals at all?
Yes, I will be there for the Super G.
All right. So everyone listening, if you're at Sun Valley, you can catch Alice McKennis racing there. Alice, good luck in the rest of ORE and the rest of your season. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was fun.
Thanks again, Alice, for joining us on the show. Thanks to you guys for tuning in. This has been a very exciting World Cup season. I will, of course, be back soon with another episode, and I'm going to be coming bi-weekly all off season with a ton of exciting interviews. So I hope you guys keep tuning in, stay engaged. Ski season may be over, but this podcast is not, and I'm really excited about that. So if you guys are loving this podcast, please leave a 5-star review of WIS Sports Radio on iTunes. I also welcome any ideas for guests and issues you'd like to see discussed on this podcast. Feel free to leave a comment below, tweet me at Hall_Gabbi, find me on Facebook. I am open to suggestions and would love to hear from you. More episodes of The Inside Line can be found at wisports.com, skiracing.com, and on any podcast player. Just search for WIS Sports Radio. WIS Sports Radio is the world's largest network of podcasts for women's sport. For more conversations from the world of women's sport, visit us at wisports.com and follow along on social media at WIS Sports and at Ski Racing Media. I will be back in 2 weeks' time with another episode of The Inside Line to talk about NorAm finals, U.S. Nationals, and more. I look forward to talking to you guys soon.